I still remember the specific shift in the restaurant industry that made me say, no way, I'm done, not doing this for the rest of my life. It was Mother's Day 2020, and it's probably the most common question I'm asked by other cooks who work in the restaurant industry or other private chefs was, hey, how did you become a private chef? And the moment I knew I was done with restaurants was a Monday morning in 2020. Mother's Day 2020, one of the worst shifts I ever worked. If you remember what was going on, most restaurants were closed down or at least at 50% capacity in terms of what we could serve inside seating at our tables. And so most restaurants were doing to-goes. And most restaurants were not set up to do that volume or that level of to-goes. And the higher level of fine dining food you were doing made executing that much more difficult. So what I ended up doing was having pretty much the worst shift in my career. I remember all week saying, hey, this is going to be a problem. Everyone said, no, it's not. We aren't going to do that much business. And I remember it just being 12 hours of hell, of non-stop tickets printing that would just never, ever, ever end. Easily in one of the top 5 worst restaurant shifts that I ever had in my 25 years of working at restaurants every day. But what was really the kicker for me was the next morning when the general manager, the corporate chef, all of the people who had scheduled themselves off for this major holiday event during this historic troubled time that we were having, all of the people who weren't there had a lot of criticisms the following morning about what went on while they weren't there. And I remember the corporate chef looking at me and he said, you know, it kind of feels like we just locked the door last night and said we'll worry about tomorrow, which was an easy thing to say when you didn't understand the terrible reality of everything that we had just gone through on the line. And so after having the frustration of voicing my concerns all week of saying how much this was going to be a problem, being told it wasn't, being left to deal with the problem, and then being criticized on the problem that wasn't my fault to begin with, I remember in that moment when he said that to me thinking, I am done, I am going to start a private chef company and I am not going to be told anymore by people who are not at the restaurant during peak hours how things should be going. And that is what I did. That is a shift I will never forget. And on the really hard days of running a business, that is still the one thing that keeps me going.